The Northman is a classic tale of revenge set during the Viking Age of the 10th century. Its exceptional historical accuracy has been praised by filmmakers, critics, and historians alike. But does this accuracy make the film less entertaining? And does it manage to stand out during the current cinematic climate of Viking core? The answers to those questions really depends on what you're looking for as an audience member. But before I get further into it, please consider subscribing and switching on notifications, as it really helps us out. And if you are feeling particularly generous, give us a like as well, as that tells YouTube that this video is worth showing to others. The Northman is director Robert Eggers' third feature film, following The Witch in 2015 and The Lighthouse in 2019. But unlike the former, which had a $4 million budget, and the latter, which had an $11 million budget, The Northman was given a whopping $90 million. Armed with this sizable pool of money, Eggers invested in authenticity, building realistic sets, creating costumes based on archaeological findings, and making sure that the props were made using the same materials and in the same way that they would have been in the 10th century. The actors were also immersed in the Viking culture, rowing their own longships and enduring the cold and muddy countryside. One example of a small historical detail is Gudrun's headpiece, which is of Finnish origin, implying that her husband plundered it from somewhere else and brought it home to his queen. This detail, as Eggers comically puts it, is a fun fact for nobody. But I would beg to differ, considering I made a fun facts video about The Matrix based entirely on details such as this one. If that is the type of video you'd be interested in watching about The Northman, then let me know in the comments below. Importantly, Eggers was not precious about the script, repeatedly changing things to better reflect the real history of the fictional characters he was writing. I would say that The Northman sits on the opposite end of the period spectrum to things like Bridgerton, a perfect example of using history to inspire rather than inform a story. Bridgerton casts aside historical accuracy to create something that is entertaining for a contemporary audience. It's almost like a high school drama, like To All the Boys I've Loved Before, but set during the Regency period. If that is something that you are looking for but inspired by Viking history, then you are better off watching things like The 13th Warrior, Thor, or shows like Vikings, which is actually one of my favorite TV shows, though maybe not the latter seasons. However, during my research of The Northman, I found out that Vikings heavily distorts the presence and importance of shield maidens. They might have existed, indeed a few bodies have been found, but they certainly were not the norm. It was very much a patriarchal society, with women tasked with the usual childcare and household upkeep. This doesn't mean that I can't enjoy Lagertha kicking butt, or be entertained by the backstabbing familial shenanigans, epic battles, and Floki's laugh. But I can approach the show with a better understanding of how it shapes history to create better entertainment. However, I think that Eggers proves that it's not necessary to change history in order to create an entertaining film. In The Northman, no characters were awkwardly forced into historical situations where they wouldn't have existed. Eggers doesn't romanticize the culture or view it from a modern perspective. He allows the history to exist independent from his own views or judgments. Simultaneously, he invites the audience to judge his characters for themselves. Is revenge worth it, ultimately? Is Hamlet a hero or a villain? There's plenty of interesting questions posed, but there's also no real pressure to answer them in order to enjoy the tale being told. Hamlet's story is loosely based on a tale written by historian Saxo Grammaticus in the 12th century, and this same story is what inspired Shakespeare's Hamlet and Disney's The Lion King. Now, Disney aside, the Northman storytelling structure, especially with its signposted chapters, did remind me of Shakespeare's tragedies, be it performed on a stage that is highly decorated and immersive. A big factor in creating this immersion is the cinematography, which perfectly balanced the action with the drama, especially utilizing long takes. These allowed the characters to breathe physically and emotionally, so the audience could see their thoughts develop, even during the fight sequences where we observe Hamlet taking in his surroundings before deciding who to swing at next. The long takes also helped remedy the understandable alienating quality of the drug-fueled spiritual and often metaphorical parts of the story. I also enjoyed how the landscape was presented almost as its own character, especially with the Mount Doom-esque presence of the volcano at the end. It is by no means a colourful film, which has a lot to do with the colour palette of the architecture, fashion, and the weather, but whatever colour remained has been subdued in order to better suit the darkness within the story, which I think was a good decision. In terms of acting, Alexander Skarsgård and Anya Taylor-Joy are perfect partners in crime, with Skarsgård playing the mixture of hero and villain captivatingly well. He reminded me of the character of Malvo from the TV series Fargo, in terms of the thought he puts into hunting his victims, dissatisfied with merely killing them, instead choosing to create chaos and revel in it. As Skarsgård brilliantly puts it,
vanity for any actor is creative suicide.
And certainly this film would have failed if the actors were not willing to be immersed. However, it's clear from the quality of their performances and the trust expressed in interviews by the cast for their director that they were prepared and willing to be uncomfortable in order to better present this thrilling tale. The only performance I was a little disappointed by is Nicole Kidman's. Don't get me wrong, I think she's a brilliant actress, but I couldn't help but notice that her facial features were somewhat incapable of expressing the emotions that she was clearly trying to express. Of course, I am not here to judge anyone who chooses to have work done to their face, but in terms of the success of the film, in terms of this visceral, raw, gritty world, she stood out in a bad way, where she wouldn't have and doesn't in other films. Though perhaps given that her character was originally a slave taken from another land, then this indicator of otherness is a bit more passable. Overall, The Northman is a fever dream rooted in history. It presents a culture that continues to fascinate the world in a captivating and memorable way without compromising on authenticity. As Ethan Hawke skillfully puts it,
each detail in and of itself doesn't matter, but 1,000 details has a gravitational pull towards excellence.
Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and switch on notifications so you don't miss future videos, and comment below with your thoughts on the film. For more film content, feel free to follow us on Twitter, Letterboxd and TikTok, links in the description. Otherwise, this has been Tea Break Film Reviews. My name's Michelle and I hope you have a great day.